Hey, welcome to the 7 Golden Rings class on this today, class number 3, all right? So class number 3 on this, the irrefutable law number one irrefutable law is keep the bears away. I just want to go into just a little bit here on this. Remember now, this is copyrighted information, PMC, Positive Masculinity Crusade 2020, 7 Golden Rings, class number 3. I just want to put this up really quickly before we start. Before we get going on some of this stuff. And that class number 1, we had Alpha rules all, okay? Class number 2 on that is the number 1 unforgivable sin is to be boring. And we talked about that last week. I think, Ragnar, some of the things that we looked at, maybe you can correct us if we're wrong on this, Abednego. I think that's such a crucial thing, that unforgivable sin, being boring, is that gets everybody into trouble out here. Guys who, we've talked about this before at different times. We just kind of go along on cruise control. We forgot somewhere our hand's supposed to be on the steering wheel, on the tiller, however you want to view that, as men in our lives, in our families, relationships, organizations, churches, whatever. This leadership component, okay? This leadership component that things are we're fat and happy in there somewhere. We get married for a few years, the kids are coming. And we just kind of go on cruise control, okay? And so I think that's something that everybody can fall into. Maybe you're at that stage where you start chasing your career and everything is just kind of going along. House isn't really a big problem, but we take things for granted, okay? And next thing you know, we slip into this routine situation here where everything's a routine and things do become methodical. Things do become boring. And so that's why we really think that is something that's important, really top of consciousness on that as far as don't be boring. So we went into that last time we covered.
Can I jump in on that real quick, just for a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead, buddy. When we went over string theory, and so go ahead there, Abednego.
Yeah, in Genesis, with the story of Joseph, you really see that a thing about not being boring when he's enslaved in Potiphar's house. And the Lord's blessing his home, and the Bible says that Potiphar turns everything over basically to Joseph, for Joseph to run the whole show. And it said that Potiphar only concerned himself with what he ate, and that was it. And so his priority is his food and his own self-satisfaction, and so he's ignoring his wife. And the next line is, well, Joseph over there was a well-built, good-looking dude. And she started day after day after day trying to get him to go to bed with her. Yeah. And I thought that, that's a very telling reason that you don't want to be boring. Yeah. Because even in, a decent marriage, if you don't keep the attention, you're in danger.
What, Bendigo, what do you got on a book, chapter, verse in that Genesis? What do you got?
Oh,
those long chapters there.
Yeah. That'd be in Genesis 39-ish, I think. Genesis 39.
Yeah, and that's the story of Joseph. Again, this is now this is different Joseph. I just want to make sure this is not Mary and Joseph. In Jesus' own family. This is way back. Okay, this is, so some of you remember this on Joseph and the Coat of Many Colors. This is what we're talking about here, Joseph, back in the day. And so, but that whole story goes over 20 chapters. So good chance, if you just open up to late Genesis, you're going to run into Joseph's story, okay? And I think you're right on this.
Genesis 39 is that story.
39 on that. And so I think one of the things that you can find on that, Abednego, before we get into where we're going today, as far as the number 1 irrefutable law, keep the bears away. And this was a real strength of Joseph too, okay? He took care of everything. He was in charge of all of Egypt. Now, this is a guy, his own brothers, okay? I don't want to get into all this, but just to get us up to speed, his own brothers were jealous because he was his dad's favorite. And his dad made him this coat of many colors. And Joseph, somewhere along in here, got his head out of joint. I'm the favorite, whatever. They sold him into slavery. He went off into Egypt, okay? And next thing you know, he's running everything. then next thing you know, he runs into this deal with Potiphar's wife. Okay. Her husband, who is really in charge of everything, doesn't really pay attention. Accused him of rape. We had kind of a precursor on the Me Too situation back there. All right.
Absolutely.
We really do. So we got a little Me Too situation. He runs off. She catches his coat there, and she runs off crying to hubby, "Oh, he raped me. He raped me." Well, it was just a woman scorn deal. He didn't rape anybody. Okay. Totally different than David, who went looking for stuff on the top of the housetop here and found Bathsheba. This is way before that with Joseph. And so now he's in jail. And next thing you know, he's running the whole jail. Because everywhere he goes, he's a foreman. It doesn't matter. He's one of these guys he's a leader of men. Okay. When you talk about leadership, when you talk about all the characteristics on the 5 pillars of Alpha we talked about, he has all this stuff going here too, Abednego. All right. And he's very bright. He can speak well. He can do everything. Okay. Next thing you know, the Pharaoh, big time guy, the biggest dude all over Egypt, he's got a problem with his dreams. And they forgot about this guy, Joseph, back in the prison, right? Who could interpret dreams. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's the backstory on that. Next thing you know, he calls Joseph up from the prison. Hey, you know what? Looks like you can do everything. You run the whole country. And he ran the whole country. Now, and then next thing you know, here comes his brothers who sold him into slavery. We're starving. We don't have anything going on. And it's really hard to get through that. There's the last chapter of that story with a dry eye on that. So you need to go back and read that. That's for another time and place. We could do a program on that. But he ends up saving all his brothers and everything else. And he reveals himself in a really touching way also. And but all these things, guys, because everybody here is somewhere in life because of what you've done, how you got yourself here, your family, your education, whatever. Okay, you're here somehow. You've been brought to this point. I mean, I've always felt the same way about this class, about the guys we work with, because we're here somehow. And the guys we have, and we need to do some kind of a show here, a bonus show when we're all done here, or however, about the guys we've helped and the guys who still walking the earth today. But when we found them, they're miserable. They're frustrated. They don't have any hope anymore in their relationships or otherwise. And they're looking at trying to figure out how to end their life and all this. So we've run into all these things. So I always do think, Ragnar, on these kinds of issues, why are we here? Okay. Why do we put in, someone asked about this. Man, it's been a long time since I didn't put 2-3 hours a day into this content, into developing this. Why? Because there's guys who need that. And if we're not out here telling this story, they're not going to be walking around tomorrow or the next day or the next week, and their families are going to be without them. And so there's a bunch of this stuff that goes ignored in society, especially when we see it right now. So that's one of the things that I think is really timely information on that story of Joseph and how that works. Potiphar's wife, he didn't care. He cared about eating. It says that right in the verse. Because Joseph took care of everything. All he had to worry about was what to eat. So that means he's probably huge and overweight, and his wife's not attracted to him anymore. Okay. Now listen, if she wasn't attractive, she'd have been down with the other concubines and he'd have had the other wife up. Okay. So we don't have to worry about how that worked back in Egypt in the old days. Okay. And so it's still one of those things I think we look at. Today's thing is about, on our class today, number 1, irrefutable law, keep the bears away. Okay. And I'm just going to say this before we go in, a little preface on this. There's this concept about hypergamy. Okay. This hypergamy. And, without really getting into a technical classroom textual type of definition, hypergamy is this need that women always have to be with a guy who's a couple notches higher than her. Okay. And I think that's as clear as we need to be. I don't think we need to go into forever, lecture on this side. But what I would say on these 2 classes, the next 2, this one, the number 1 irrefutable law, keep the bears away, and next time, the number 2 irrefutable law, okay, keep bread on the table. Those are both the 2-sided coin of hypergamy on this, and we're going to get into that here. Keep the bears away, okay? And there's a part of this that we'll diagram out here, because the reason this is important on this is that women need both sides of that. Okay, and we're gonna draw this out just to make sure we're all on the same page. As we get started, Ragnar, any thoughts on these kinds of things right now before I start drawing stuff all over the place?
Well, we've talked about in the past a 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta, 2/3 warrior, 1/3 monk, and that is fitting here. I mean, if you can just keep that icon, that archetype in your head, then a lot of this takes care of itself. And so, you know, if you're 2/3 warrior, 1/3 monk, you're going to know how to kill a bear. You know.
Yeah.
And the monk side is the compassion side. You're going to make sure people are safe, warm, got blankets, the heat's on, they're fed, there's good water. You know, so it all comes back to that 2/3 warrior, 1/3 monk. And if you just have to keep that repped in your head, you got to program it just like you memorize your spelling words. I mean, you have to program that until it becomes who you are internally. We use the term sheepdog in the past too, but whichever one resonates, that has to become who you are. Not a coat you put on every day, but it's actually your DNA.
Yeah.
And when that becomes that, then a lot of this stuff will just take care of itself. You know? But it has to be who you are.
Yeah, I think there's a few things I'm going to put on here as I kind of write these down. Go ahead and keep on going here, Ragnar, just for a little bit. I'm going to write some stuff down here that if we look at this, I want to put these words down, and they're going to resonate with every guy on different levels. Okay, because as we go through with there's parts of you, of every man out there, that are attractive to a woman, I'm saying. Okay, now we break that down because the women break it down, and we're going to break this down quite a bit here today. Some things you do are sexually attractive, and we put those over in their own category. Okay, other things you do are really not sexually attractive, but they're about an attraction on a different level, about a provider side. That's important. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write these as we go through. Ragnar, jump in if you want to, Abednego, while I'm filling some of this in. Some of this is stuff we put in over the last 2 weeks, but it needs to be fresh up here as we go forward here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up.
You know, there's one thing that's been talked about in the manosphere, the difference between arousal and attraction. And you know, attraction to lay public just means, okay, they're hot, they're nice looking, whatever. But actually arousal is that biochemical change that you can't control in your body when you see somebody that's attractive.
Yeah.
That you see somebody that fits your mating agenda in your wiring, your biochemistry. That is arousal. It's a biochemical thing that the body agenda that the male or the female can't control. So when a woman's around a compassionate alpha, she may not like you. She may think you're an ass, but her arousal is real. Her biochemical arousal to you is real. And so, but now if you're a good provider, nice guy, church every Sunday, keeps a nice yard, she can be attracted to that, you know, from the provider side, but she may not be aroused by you.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference between arousal. Arousal is having yourself that 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta, 2/3 warrior, 1/3 monk, where there's an edge about you. You know, you're a good man. You know, I sent you guys that one thing a couple weeks ago with the guy with the beard. It says, a good man's not a simple man or a safe man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man that keeps it under conscious control. That's what a good man. I sent you that meme a couple weeks ago. And that's true. And the woman senses that with her spidey senses. She senses that edge. What turns her on is a really kind, gentle man who she knows in the right context could be a ferocious tiger. That's what turns her on. I mean, like nothing else.
I think some of the things that we look at, I'll put this chart up just so we have this back on our side again here. And I think what you're talking about now, Ragnar, okay, because it's something that women don't see, they've quit looking for, because this is kind of a unicorn for them, okay, in this 2/3 side. This right here is what we're going to call compassionate alpha. Now, I know we put this up on the chart, in my own opinion, we can't put it up enough and talk about it enough. Obviously, you can get saturation level, and people are tired of hearing this. So it's something we all have to be careful with on our side of things, at our homes or whatever. This can't be all you talk about. Okay, somewhere like we talked about last time, you know, you got to put that. This is all our new toy, and we're excited about this stuff and this content. Somewhere, you know, you got to. It's like your new trike you got that we touched on last time. You got to put that toy away. You got to go back in and deal with humans and just be the dad they need sometimes. Okay. But on this side, about what we're trying to find here, Compassion Alpha, it's a 2/3 alpha. It's a 1/3 beta. Let me go back to this other chart. Abednego, I'm going to go to you here in a second. I want you to comment. I want to make sure, can you all see this, all these words I put up here or not?
Yeah.
Okay, because when I put the camera up, I just want to make sure I'm not blocking that side. Let me say this, Abednego. There's some things on here I have on the left side under compassion. Now, the reason it's important about where these things fall is because it is on the compassionate side, the beta side, or on the alpha side, okay, on the sexual attraction side. So we've broken down these on this chart on this. The provider side, we'll talk about that next time, okay, about keep bread on the table. Sheepdog, we talked about that time. We talked about that last time on that archetype. The monk, the warrior monk. So we broke this down. Biblically, what you're going to find is on the alpha side, you're going to find all these old stories that are more alpha side in the Old Testament. Okay. And so that's why I put Old Testament here. That's what that is. New Testament here. As far as more beta stories, more turn the other cheek, this kind of stuff. Okay. The meek will inherit the earth, this kind of deal that people, I think, have misplaced a lot of that in teaching too. So why is all this important? Why is all this something that that we're worried about? How does this work? Abednego, you see a lot of things in ministry about this. You do a lot of premarital counseling. You do a lot of people that come to you, counseling side, that some of them have hope, some of them not. Obviously, everybody has hope if they want to make changes. But when you get to them, so many times it's so late to go over this information. But what are you finding out there on the street when you get a guy and you start talking about this stuff, how it resonates when you're looking at a guy, sometimes because you do counseling with guy and the girl right there, and you start talking about this stuff, what are their reactions about their needs when you bring up this kind of language terminology? How do you find that?
It's tough in counseling when the guy and the gal is both there, because a lot of times the reason that they're in the situation that they're in is because they just can't communicate about it. They can't have a discussion. Maybe they can't even bring up the word sex in their home. Yeah. And so to go into those kind of discussions with both of them is pretty rough. What I've found most of the time is if I can deal with the guy and get the guy to change things, the female will fall in line. She's just doing what she's programmed. It's all about how God programmed us to be. And so if I can get with the guy, and basically kind of what I'll do with him is just walk down through it with him, you know, and I'll ask him some questions, you know, who makes the decisions, financial decisions? Oh, she does. Okay. Well, who decides where you're going on vacation? Oh, well, she does. Yeah. And then I'll start saying, well, I bet you probably have some places you'd like to go, but she'd never do that, would she? No. I bet, you know, and I'll just start doing, I bet that she grabs at you sometimes when you do the load the dishes, because you think if you load the dishes in the dishwasher that you're going to get some action, and then she grabs at you for how you loaded them. Yeah. I said, I bet there's nights that you lay awake in bed and thinking, oh, she moved, maybe she's gonna roll over and roll on top of me, and it never happens. You're staring at the ceiling. Yep. You go down through this list of things that we would put on a beta side, and most, really I'd say 95% of the guys that I talk with who are in deep problems are just way, way far down on that beta scale. And so if I can convince them to bump up a little bit, they don't have to go from 10% to 75% overnight. They don't have to go from you know, right straight to 2/3. But if they can just make a little progress, If you're 10% alpha, if you can just move up to 11 or 12. If you're 5% alpha, if you can just move up to 7 within the next month, you're making headway, and you're going to see all of a sudden that relationship changes. Now, the guys who will take the teaching and will begin to apply little bits at a time, by the next week, I mean, literally by the next week, they have a smile on their face because everything's changing. But so many times guys will not make the change. I think mainly it's just out of fear.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, everything's new to them. This, what we're talking about, is a whole bunch of wild ideas here. Okay. And I'm going to, you know, if you really want to get crazy here, I'm going to put another chart up, and we're going to develop this as we go. There's a couple of things I want to do, though, before I put this chart up. And I think this is a thing that's really important for us to kind of put up on here. Okay. And to make sure we're all on the same page on this. So I'm going to put, okay, one of the things that we need to put on here, okay, primary needs, okay, when we look at this. And I don't think many people know how to view this. I don't think they know what this is supposed to be about. I don't think people talk about this somehow. So if we, and I know we talked about this early on, alpha rules all, but I'm going to go in a different direction. So because of that, if you be patient, if some of this is review a little bit, I don't want to go too much into review, but some of this needs to be back on here. I'm not talking about breathing for either party, because breathing is the same for each person. Okay. We all need it more than the other stuff. Men and their primary need. Let me go back here and say this. The primary need that men have is sexual need. Okay. Now, there's a few things on this that I think we need to put up here. There's 1A and maybe 1B is on this. Okay. Fertility. Well, listen, if you're wanting to start a family and you go not very many years back and you want to keep the family farm, you got to have a bunch of boys around here who help with this deal. Okay. And so I think one of these things come up pretty soon is that she's got to be fertile somehow. Okay. So let's just say these are the top couple things that men have. Nurturing is up here, obviously. Okay. Because that indicates your ability as a woman to raise the kids, run your house, take care of your people, whatever it is. Okay. So on the women's side, let's go back here a little bit, and you guys can jump in here anytime on these items, because we're going to, obviously, when we do this class and next class, they're pretty fluid, but all of them are about these items of need. Your overarching theme on this class is keep the bears away. For next class, it's about keep food on the table. But there's so much overlap in these topics, they're going to kind of run together on a lot of this.
Crusader, I like to interject on that.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
What I want to make sure with Christian guys is, because of the way they're raised and in the church, they have it programmed into them very young that women don't enjoy sex. That it's just something, it's like taking the trash out. It's just something they do to keep the house going. And so when we have this situation like you have here, women need security, men need sex. I would suggest right below security, if you're a 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta, right below security is sex for her.
Yeah.
So when you're that warrior monk and she's seeing pre-selection around you, she knows that she can't replace you. She knows that she can't find another man that would really, especially where she's at in today's life and where she lives. She knows she couldn't replace you. She knows that she would never get over losing you. And she knows she couldn't stand seeing you at the store with another woman who has that 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta next to her, and she no longer has it.
Yeah.
So when that woman has that wiring in her, that she recognizes all that, then right below security is she wants a lot of sex with you.
Yeah.
She wants to make darn sure you have her scent on you all the time.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure guys understand it's not the sex thing. Whether she just does it. No. She will be crawling all over you if those buckets are filled. I mean, you'll be like, you're just trying to function, and she's like jumping on you. I mean, that's just how it is once that's handled.
Yeah.
So right below security, if you're the warrior monk, if you're the 2/3 alpha, 1/3 beta, compassionate alpha, and she recognizes that unicorn. And now also you can do that indirectly to make darn sure she does recognize that you're that unicorn.
Yeah.
But once she knows that, then once she understands that, then she wants a lot of sex with you, barring
Yeah.
medical stuff.
Sure. Or some kind of abuse in the background or whatever.
Whatever.
But I totally agree with that too.
Yeah.
I think if you can be who God created you to be, and I do believe that God created us to be in that area of that 2/3 alpha, that compassionate alpha, a blend of Old Testament that's wrath and justice and raw and gritty, and New Testament that's love and grace and mercy, and you can be in that balance of that too, that you can attract her in such a way that it brings out what God created her to be. See, if you're not who God created you to be, then she has to play that part, whether that's the provider game or the protector game. And she's got to play that part. If she's playing that part, she has no room to be who God created her to be, which is really this sexual being who's the helpmate and wants to satisfy your needs and pleasure you as you pleasure her. But if she has to take on all these roles that you should have as a man, she has no room for that.
Abednego, so when we're talking about this, because so many times, and we're going to get into this a little bit probably here, if not next time. So class number 4 is going to be about keep bread on the table. Okay. We're going to have a whole section here about sexy time and that kind of deal. And so I guess, when we look at this class, how are we going to develop 7 golden rings? Somehow, you try to have class themes based on some stuff. But in real life, there's so much overplay, Abednego, on all of this stuff. Okay. There's so much overlap on all of it. Some of this, I think, we're going to hear again and again and again, and you ought to. Okay. Because if you don't now, you start to fall off a little bit here. So many guys, when they have this is only class 3, they still have a training wheels on in so many ways. If you're only week 3 here, we've been doing this for a number of years. If you're still in week 3 and you just got this, you stumbled onto this product somehow, or somebody bought you this audio or whatever it is, you're still having training wheels on. So that's why we keep hitting these topics over and over and over on this. Okay. Abednego, I just, here's what I do know about what you're saying on this. When guys shirk their duties for leadership, when they can't even make a decision, and these women, they go to work all day, they're all beat up, they come home, they have to do everything there also, because the guy's sitting here just looking at ESPN or whatever he's doing, looking at TV. So she has no energy left for this right here, which she's dying for, craving. She has no energy left for this sexual side, and she has no outlet for this. Okay. Because too much of the time she has to make all these decisions, do all this stuff. And so somewhere along the way, when we keep talking about balance, okay, that's where all this stuff comes in. And on the women's side, what they're terrified about, okay, and I'm going to go back here a little bit. Ragnar, one of the things that women really, really, because I think we talked about this at other times, is that this idea about marriage is a discounting mechanism, okay? Maybe you're 22 or 25 or 30. When you get married, you surely are hoping, if you're 22 and you get married, you surely are hoping this isn't her peak of everything. You hope this is going to keep getting better in all kinds of different ways. And what I would say about that on this is there's a part of that, what I mean discounting mechanism, okay, is that she's going to grow and mature in all of these areas, okay? So, but security side, she's looking at you the same too, to continue to develop your resources, okay? And one of the things, so she's got some things in her brain. She's got some things in her programming, in her lizard brain, that tells her, okay, security side, what is a trigger for security? Okay, well, it's really frustrating to a lot of guys when they keep seeing all these babes run off with these jerks everywhere, okay? Well, all she knows is the guy who's a jerk, the tough guy, the mean guy, the guy who's riding a Harley or whatever he's riding, that somehow goes to her lizard brain back here and says he's going to be able to take care of things. He's some rough and tumble guy. At least he'll be able to keep the bears away. Okay. And so she's willing to, in so many of these opportunities, forego the beta side and end up with a jerk so many times because she'd rather do that. She'd rather end up with a jerk who's a little bit too mean, all right, than end up with the beta guy, the weak guy, the guy who can't make any decisions. And so why do we see this all the time? Girls end up with a jerk. And that's the reason, because they default to security. Well, she has to choose. Well, she's going to go security because somebody has to keep the bears away for her, for the kids. And if that's how she has to make a decision, all right, then that's what that's going to come down to. You bet on the sexy time side, for sure. Sexual being, that's if things are brought out and taken care of, that she can get that. And so if guys ignore that to your own peril, guys. But this is what they want, okay? On the humor side, we've talked about before, it's an indicator of IQ, of a guy who can provide resources, a guy who has connections, all these kinds of things. I want to put up a different chart here real quick about something that we call sexual market value, okay? When we look at what this means, sexual market value. And the reason we say, because what is your market? And everybody should ask this. Everybody should kind of know where you're at on a sexual market side, okay? Guys, girls, anybody, whoever. And if you're a guy and you start dropping down in sexual market value and you're just not worth that much anymore, I mean, are you still reading? Are you still growing? Have you just let yourself all go? Are you just, you're nobody who looks like the guy in the wedding picture? When you start to let yourself go, and so that's what I'm going to put up next, is this chart about sexual market value, because women do this too. And I don't care who's all out there wanting to be politically correct about this. There's a ranking system that everybody has. Either I'm higher, I'm lower, however you want to view that. So we're going to go into that now. Anything else on this, Ragnar, you want to touch on before I go to the next one on sexual market value?
Well, I'll go into this. I mean, we can touch the sexual market value because with guys, the cool thing about men is you actually have 4 knobs. We talk about 3 knobs of state control, but you have 4 knobs when it comes to your sexual market value. You have game, which is applied charisma, behavior. You have status, you have looks, and you have money in descending order. Game's most important, status is second, and then looks, and then money, but they're all 4. Now, if you have all 4 of those, you got more tail coming at you and you know what to do with, and your wife's very attracted to you. That's when she's going to feel that, hey, I can't replace this guy, and I'll miss him. I'll never get over losing him, because if I see him with another woman at the grocery store next year, it's going to kill me. So game, status, looks, and money. Now with women, they have 1 knob. Now I actually prefer a really intelligent woman, because I like a lot of dialogue and conversation. I get bored easily. She's got to be good looking and smart. I like to have somebody who's got a good personality and good intelligence, like a Da Vinci gal. But but most guys don't. They just want looks. So if she has looks and sexual, most 99% of guys are fine with that. I want looks, sexual, and some brains. But I'm the minority by far on that. Most guys they don't want challenge. They just want looks and sexual. And so for women, it's looks. That's the only knob they can play is looks. And so, and they can raise their point or lower point depending on their sexual availability and enthusiasm. But for guys, you have 4 knobs. You got game, status, looks, and money. And you can mix and match those all you want, but those knobs can be controlled. You don't have to be super rich, and that's why there's a lot of poor guys that got that bad boy thing that go all the women they want, and their girlfriend's not going anywhere. So money's not a big deal for them, but they got game down, they got status, because they have that presence when they walk in a room. They have that status. The guy may not have $2 to rub together, but he's got that. He's in control but not controlling presence when he walks in a room. That's status. So people know him, like we talked about before in another class. Getting to know all your people in your restaurants around your community. So when you walk in there, everybody, hey, and your girl sees that. You're connected. That status. And so, but game is applied charisma, pass and fit test, joking, cocky, funny, flipping switches, all that stuff is game. And then status, like we talked about, and then looks. Keep yourself in shape. Be somebody that she would want to have sex with. You pass the naked test. Look at yourself in front of a mirror. You know, it's sometimes it's good to put a, like, honest to God, put a bag over your head with 2 eyes in it, so you just don't see your face, and just look at your body. Would you want to sleep with you if you were a girl? You know, and if not, fix it. You know, and so that's the looks thing, and then the money thing. You know, get yourself financially solvent. You know, have at least have your debt under control and have cash flow and stuff like that. You don't have to be rich, but you know, be stable, financially stable. But those 4 buttons guys can play with. Girls have 1, looks, period. And I'll tell you, I mean, I like smart women, but I don't care how smart she is. If she's not attractive, if I don't find her physically attractive, she can have a radiant personality and be so smart and creative. If she doesn't pass the testosterone test with me, you know what that means, then
Yeah.
she doesn't get a vote. I mean, she's not coming aboard the boat unless she's attractive in my mind, physically.
Yeah.
So it still looks with, even though I like these other traits, even though I like the brains and the personality, it's still got to be looks. There's plenty of very average women out there aesthetically that have great personalities that I don't want to date.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be a neighbor, you know, and if she comes in my practice, I'll talk to her or whatever, but I'm not going to date her.
Yeah.
So it still comes down for me as looks, even though I want
Ragnar, let me say this too. There's a couple things, and I'm going to put this other chart up. We're going to develop that as we go. There's a couple things that when I say marriage is a discounting mechanism, okay? As a guy, you're right. You might be 22. You don't have 2 pennies. So as guys get older, mature, develop, build resources, build status, okay? Maybe you run for office. Maybe you own your firm. Maybe whatever, okay? So money, okay. We can work on money. We can get that, okay? And girls understand that. You're not going to have
she's wanting to see potential. She's wanting to see potential. That's what she wants. I mean, she wants to know there's potential for money.
Yeah.
You know, if you're working your way up the ladder, that's all she needs to see is that you're making progress on the ladder. That's all you don't have to be rich right now.
Now, one of the things, you know, when you talk about potential, right? At least you got to have potential. One of the things that's really frustrating for women on this is that somewhere along the way, if you as a male, as a provider, because money is on the provider side. Money's on the beta side. Money's not the sexual attraction side. She's going to be happy if she's seeing potential. What's really frustrating is somewhere along the way, if you're 30 and you've already topped out and you're no longer advancing, and she understands this is the top that we're going to get in terms of money, 401k, you know, lifestyle, vacation, whatever. Okay. So guys need to keep building that side of it there. On the status, you know, community leader, church leader, whatever, man of influence in your group.
Well, it's the 5 pillars. The status is your 5 pillars.
It is. It's right here. Okay.
But 5 pillars. That's your status. Make sure are you leading men? You know, all these kind of things. That's your 5 pillars, your status.
That's your 5 pillars, because all of this stuff, we saw David get some of those early, but not all of them. So you build them as you go. Okay. You build those as you go. What's really frustrating for a woman is if you stopped out and you're 25, you're 30, 35, whatever, and you're no longer developing, you're no longer having connections, you're no longer growing money, career advance, it's all stopped somewhere. And you're just sitting out here, status quo, doing your same old thing, and there's no more challenges coming. Okay, that's when things start to get dried up in the bedroom. Okay, so one of the things that really, for guys even, let's go back here. I know we're just getting into this, but for guys, this is one thing, we see this all the time. Abednego, I want you to comment on this here a little bit, because what we understand, men will overreach right here. Men will overreach for sex. They'll make dumb decisions in relationships if the sex is there. All right, so they will overreach for sex. Women will overreach for security. They will. They will let so many things go if they can be secure. And I'm sure it goes back to the days of the caveman or the time before riding. Listen, if you want to argue about the age of the earth and all, that's not what this class is about. That's some other deal. Back in the day, when primarily you're worried about survival, women overreach on security. Abednego, we were talking about a couple the other day that we know that they broke up. And I said, you know, this girl, Susie, I really think she can do better than Jimmy Joe. And you said, I mean, before I even almost just got those words out of my mouth, you said, yeah, I know Susie can do better than Jimmy Joe, but I don't think she will. You remember this conversation? And we both kind of looked at each other. She will overreach for security, and more likely she'll go get an idiot. So these two concepts about why men overreach for sex, you know, Ragnar, you talked about this. Sex trumps all of it. Attractive, man, is she hot? Okay. So we'll put up with something. I mean, everything's a trade-off. I'll put up with some of this stuff for an enthusiastic sex partner. Okay, I can put up with some stuff. So Abednego, this idea, men overreach for sex, women overreach for security. Comments on that real quick before we move on.
One thing we've always said is that sex covers over a multitude of sins, a multitude of shortcomings, and it really does. You know, it's that bonding, it's that emotional attachment. It's an attachment really in every area of your life, physically, mentally, spiritually. There's that bonding, and so it does cover over many different things, and I believe that's why you know, God tells us in His Word as husband and wife to have sex and have it often, because it does do that. And so, yeah, if you can have a frequency of sex, you can overlook a lot of things. You know, she doesn't have to be super intelligent or super engaging or a great housekeeper or a fabulous cook, or, you know, as long as all those categories are reasonable, you can deal with it. As long as the sex is really good. What is that we say? Would you rather have a boring 9 or an enthusiastic 6 or 7? You know, I mean, what do you want? You know, and so, yeah, that's huge on that side, the security side for women. You know, it's really what they want. And when we're being that compassionate alpha, she is very secure, very secure. Yeah. When she's not secure is when you're being the beta guy, and then she got to rely on herself.
And when you're that compassionate alpha, she wants your seed inside her as much as it possibly can happen.
Big time.
Yeah. And it's, you know, it to me, it just keeps going back to, that's how God created it. That's how God created her to respond. She responds to compassionate alpha because that's what God created us to be. And as a man. And so when you are what God created you to be, then that's when she can be who God created her to be. And
she blossoms.
Yes, she becomes a woman. That's, you know, I know Ragnar's talked about this a lot, and since he's been talking about it, I will use this in counseling with women a lot of times. And, you know, I'm like, I bet you would just like to come through the door and just drop everything, drop all the armor that you've had to put on all day and just be a woman, wouldn't you? And they all just like, they almost melt in their chair.
I call it the puppy dog look. They give you that puppy dog look, man, instantly.
Yep. And they're like, absolutely. And that's what they want. I mean, so many women now are driven this whole thing of, you know, anything a man can do, she can do, or she can do it better. And she's driven to be the CEO and all this stuff. And you know, that's a debated topic that we'll save for another time. But what happens is, if she can't come home at some time and drop all that and just be a woman, she's never going to respond in the enthusiastic way that the guy wants her to respond. And so if you've got that hard-nosed CEO type woman, you've got to figure out how to combat that and how to bring the woman out of her by taking away all these things, all these traits that really the compassionate alpha should be taken care of.
You know, I think one of the things that you're talking about here is that as a male, as a leader, that's how we're designed to be. Okay, I'm not talking about how society is programming these women and the men too, by the way.
Right.
I'm talking about how we're designed to be, how our DNA is written in there. What firmware are we using on this side? Okay, let me put a few things up here, and I know we're going to go into a lot of this. Is always, I don't remember, Abednego, that we've had this class that this particular lesson wasn't really far up there. as far as enjoyability scale, and you know, there's a lot of entertainment here because everybody can kind of understand. Everybody, doesn't matter who you are. If you're a 2, you might not really peg yourself as a 2, but you know you're somewhere under 5. If you think you're somewhere up here at an 8, you kind of have some reason for thinking this. Women are the same, okay, on a scale from 0 to 10. Now, let me put a few things up here before we get too wild about it, okay? For men, listen, there's a few things we do want to put on here. One of the things that, like we said, physical attraction, okay? So physical attraction has got to be way up here, okay? Now, there's a few reasons why that is. Obviously, I think most people know about where that is. Maternal instincts is up there, right? Maternal instincts is up there. For me personally, now everybody can fill in your own chart. So everybody's playing along at home. You put in whatever you want on your chart. That's your deal. I don't care, whatever, because everybody has whatever is attractive to them. But for me, physical attraction, maternal instincts, we're going to say, right? For me also, there's just no way. I think for me, Ragnar, you touched on this just a minute ago. I could not be long-term with a gal, okay? If we're not oscillating, if we're not on the IQ level, if you don't have a quick synapses, if I got to explain every joke, pretty soon I'm looking for an exit ramp on that relationship. I just can't do this thing. Some people, that's not their deal. Some people are fine with whatever average deal they have. So there's a lot. So however you want to order these is what I'm saying. I don't know, that's your business. But somewhere up toward the top of every guy is going to be sexual attractive side, okay, on this. And I think one of the things that we look at that we've talked about before, Ragnar, is that all of these things, we assign different point values, okay? So if you are a gal out here, okay, I'm going to put this up because this is different. Sexual activity. Let's just look at this for a minute. I want to pull this out and use this as a subset. This is its own category. For women who have known sexual activity, like, oh, that girl, she's some sex pot. This girl is on fire. Immediately, Abednego, we internally assign her some points, okay? Because these are not all created equally, and at different times, they're not either. For example, maternal instincts is great, Ragnar. If I don't have any kids, then I apply it to my own situation. Can someone take care of me if I'm sick and I'm not feeling well? I need someone just to love me.
What I would say, because if you don't have any kids yet, what I would say as a man, like my kids are raised, but what I want is I want a nurturing energy.
Yep, sure.
Now that covers her husband or her man, and that covers her kids both. So maternal instinct's good, but it kind of isolates to one area, because as a man, if I'm sick or I'm just down or I've taken a shot, as far as work or something or down, I want a nurturing energy there. I don't want a cold narcissistic energy there.
Yeah.
And I don't want an indifference. I don't want an indifference. See, a woman is attracted to indifference. She constantly wants to fill that cup because it pulls that string. But a guy is not attracted to indifference. A guy wants nurturing. A woman's attracted to indifference and aloofness and coy and all that. A guy is not attracted to that. A guy does not want hard to get. Hard to get turns on a woman. Hard to get turns off a guy.
Yeah.
And so we're just wired differently. And so you want that nurturing energy from a woman. That warm, she sees you laying on the couch. She thinks you're asleep. She comes up and puts a blanket on you and just kind of pats you a little bit. She thinks you're asleep and you're not. That's nurturing energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what you want. Now, the fact I just described that scene for you guys, all four of you guys that I'm talking, would all be warm from that situation, right?
Sure.
Now, on top of that, if you find her physically attractive, and on top of that, she surprises you in the bedroom with some lingerie, I mean, what else do you want from that woman?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, if she can cook, that's great, but that's a far fourth or fifth on that.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
If she's nurturing, if she's enthusiastic, she's fun to hang out with, she's sexual, you can order pizza. You know what I'm saying? If you're missing the cooking thing, we can YouTube some videos on that deal. But everything else is covered, right? I mean, what guy would take that deal? right?
Well, let me say this now. I can hang out with Campbell Soup for a while if I'm having enthusiastic sex and pizza, right?
Yeah, she's nurturing energy. She's loving
Sure.
you. I mean, she's
You
cuddling you.
bet.
She can't. She's
You bet.
she's checking on you during the day, and I mean, come on.
But listen, there's not a lot of things where I can substitute in the enthusiastic sex. Okay. So in other words, so if somebody has enthusiastic sex, let's go back here for a little bit. So the sexual activity side, if they're a known performer, all right, that's a +2, +3. That covers so many other inadequate areas. Okay. That covers so many other areas where they might have a little bit of a trip up here. Okay. But man, if they're always ready to go, sexual enthusiasm side, I'm willing to overlook a lot of different things on this side. Okay. So now I didn't put these, let me go back here. I didn't put these in order of anything. I just put some stuff down, traits that people kind of look for, right? I don't think anywhere on here, as far as the male side, I'm not looking for, it's nice if they have a career or whatever, but it's not something my main thing. I'm looking for what their career is on the female side. I can take care of that. I don't need somebody who's some CEO ball buster out here. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay. That's not showing up on my chart. If they can do all that, that's fine, but it's not one of my top 4 or 5 things. So let me go back here a little bit. They're on these traits now. Again, they're not in order of anything, okay? Because everybody has their own priorities. You can order them how you want to. So I'm not going to fool around with what order everything should be in. I'm saying there are certain things that trump other things. Same. If we look back over here, go look at the male side of this, okay? There are some of these things that trump all the others. And at different times of your life, different things mean different things, okay? So I guess we want to go into pretty soon here what it means on sexual market value, how it impacts things. Now, again, I know our class here today is keep the bears away, but I think it's hard to have that conversation combined with next week's keep bread on the table. I think it's hard to have that discussion if you don't somewhere put this chart up on the board, okay? And the reason I put it up here early today is because then we can talk about it all today and all next week. So I certainly don't want to leave this whole chart till next week. And then we didn't even talk about all this preliminary stuff. Okay. So there's different things on here that show up in different things. All right. When we look at how people are viewed on all this stuff, we're going to call this a leverage index. And I do want to go and put that on here too, because everybody has some leverage or they don't have any leverage, depending on how things are set up in their relationship, okay? So if let's just say, and we can play with these numbers any way you want. Let's say you have a gal who's maybe they both get married and they're both an 8. The girl's an 8, the guy's an 8. Somewhere along the way, you could apply it either way and go back, and it's a fun game to play, but maybe this girl's not keeping track of herself. She's going sweatpants, looking at TV, keeping track of the kids. She doesn't look good for her husband when he comes home, all this stuff, however that works out. You can go the other way too and look at it the other way. You can do however you want to do. Somewhere along the way, if there's a difference, a couple, 3 points, we start to get into a real danger area here as far as viable relationships. Abednego, go ahead and talk about that just a minute in terms of what you see in your counseling and how things work as far as divergence points and where you see trouble coming in. You can see some couples who can repair some things. You can also see when they're coming through the door, this isn't going to work. Okay. And just kind of break that down for us a little bit on that.
Yeah. When you begin to get that divergence is when, especially from the female side, is when hypergamy is going to begin to kick in. If you've dropped, if you were very similar when you first got together, you got married or whatever, but then if you begin to drop down that scale, and she begins to, so say you were both 7s, and now you've went down to a 5, you've let yourself go, you've not really pursued maybe your career side of things, you just kind of floating through life and put on some pounds and you're out of shape now. You just sit around, watching NASCAR or Netflix or whatever, and you've dropped a few points there, what happens is that she's still drawing the eyes of 7s and 8s. Now you're a 5, and she begins to think, wow, you know, I can still draw. I could draw a better guy than what I have. And, you know, there's lots of things that enter into that from a religious standpoint of, you know, I've got the moral code and everything else that tells me I can't do that, but that doesn't eliminate the desire that's internal inside her. And so you see that struggle happen quite a bit. And I see that in the counseling side. Mostly what I see are guys who have slid down the scale. That's probably a good 80%, 75-80% of the counseling that I deal with are guys who have slid down that scale. So you can almost say the beta slide is an SMV slide too.
Sure it is.
You know, you're dropping SMV points as you slide down that beta slide. And so, you know, those are the things that I deal with the most in trying to get guys to turn around and go, you know, what were you doing when you were dating? How did you do? I mean, did you ask her where she wanted to? No, I told her we're going to go here and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. So you need to bring that guy back. You know, well, I want her to be happy because everybody says happy wife, happy life. And I go, so is she happy? No. Was she happy when you're dating? Yeah. Okay. Then quit listening to what the world's telling you about happy wife, happy life, because she's going to be happy if you'll become that guy that you used to be. And, you know, a lot of times it's that kind of talk that will help them more than anything. But the big chunk of my thing is all about trying to help guys who have began to slide beta. And that's a whole other thing, you know, whenever you want to get into it or whatever, about how once she locks him in, and so they're say they're both 7s, and she locks him in, he's drawn the eyes of 7 and 8s too.
Mm-hmm.
And so she still has some competition. And so if she can beat him down a little bit, get him down to a 6 or a 5, then that eliminates all her competition. But now she's not attracted to him.
Yeah.
And so she beats him down through that, you know, through that program period of, we call it the first 7 years, the 7-year program period. And she tries to beat him down so that she doesn't have competition for him anymore. But then it gets to a point where now she's just not attracted to him anymore.
You know, Abednego, listen, the program period, I just need to spend a little bit of time here, okay? Because it matters. We're talking about sexual market value. Let's go back here again. We're talking about sexual market value, okay? Now, if you're a 7 and your babe is a 7, and you're kind of both tracking along here, she's going to calibrate to you, and this is how this is going to work. Now, somewhere along the way, you both, let's just say you wake up one morning and you both are a 5. Admittedly, hey, both sides of the equation, we both kind of let some things go here, all right, so we're both 5s. And you decide, you know, I'm gonna get myself back. I'm gonna get in shape here. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna tighten up. Okay. Now, if she doesn't calibrate to you, this is another concept we're gonna put on the shelf for a minute because we'll go back here another day. It's about calibration side. Okay. If she doesn't want to calibrate to you, you start cranking up here. You start going back up here. If she doesn't want to calibrate to you, this thing's over. Okay. If she's not trying to match you somewhere on her appearance, sexual energy, all right, on her growth patterns, whatever, then things are kind of shut down. She's not fighting for that football anymore like we talk about. And if both people aren't fighting for this football, it's done. There's no game left if we're done on this. Let me go back here a little bit. I want to talk about program period for a minute. What we say on this is 7 years on the program period, okay? Here's how this works in this 2/3 alpha side, 1/3 beta. Every time she fit tests you, she's trying to find, are you still this person? Are you still heavily over here? whether it be here or here, or where. She wants to find out where you're at. She wants to find out, are you still good for making babies? Tomorrow, today? How about next week? I don't know. I got to test you. So she wants to fit test you, okay? She wants to fit test you to find out where you are on this side here, on the leadership side. Are you really in charge of this outfit? Can you really keep the bears away? Is that who you are? Or maybe I got an imposter. Maybe I got a counterfeit somewhere, okay? So the more she sees you going down this side, that's initially what she's trying to do. That's what her firmware is telling her to do. Because the more she can turn you into this tamed down alpha guy, the less competition she'll have for you out here. So when we don't go back to sexual market value, all right? The lower you are, yeah, let me get back there. The lower you are here, right? The less she has to worry about other gals coming in and poaching you. The problem with all that is the lower you are here on this alpha beta side, then she runs out of sexual attraction for you. So there is a program period, and this is true. The 7-year itch, call it whatever you want. On this program period, she's trying to program you down here. Okay, Ragnar, I know you've got some thoughts on that. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, there's one thing that kind of blows all this out of the water today with modern technology.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that you both, 30 years ago, or say in the 80s or something,
yeah,
you were both 7s, and you had some people you ran with, and maybe a local bar, the local church, whatever, and you saw a few people, but there was maybe a half a dozen people potentially besides you that were prospects.
Yeah.
So you're both at 7s, and she knew she was a 7, you're a 7. You just, without speaking, you kind of know that.
Yeah, yeah.
But nowadays, she's on Facebook, Instagram every day. She's on whatever, Spotify. She's on all these things every day. And so she's doing all this. And now, because all these thirsty males are hitting her up on Facebook and all this kind of stuff and trying to message her, she's a 7 objectively, but subjectively now she thinks she's a 9.
Yeah.
And so you're still a 7 in her mind, but now she thinks she's a 9, whether she's changed anything or not.
To get all this attention. So you're getting attention everywhere.
So now she is just like, so if you combine the fact that technology now makes her think she's a 9 when actually she's a hard 7.
Yeah.
You got that, plus her natural tendency to put you down and fit test you to knock you down. So now she's actually, in her mind, put you down to a 6, and she's a 9 now in her mind, not in reality, but in her mind, she's a 9. There's a 3-point differential now, and that's why you see a lot of affairs and stuff start on social media.
Yeah.
So back in the old days, when you just had the small town, and you're both 7s, you're pretty safe. But now she thinks, in her mind, she thinks she's a 9 because she's got a ton of thirsty betas hitting her up on Instagram and Facebook.
It's funny.
Make sense?
Yeah, it really does. And, Ragnar, one of the things that we've talked about before, back in the day, Little House in the Prairie, whatever, Leave It to Beaver, whatever. You have a certain geographical area, okay? Like in marketing, we talk about, locking out people geographically, okay? Geographically exclusive. These types of things come up. So you want to pay more so you can be the only person in your area with certain marketing techniques, whatever. It's the same in dating. It's the same in relationships. Everyone has kind of a geographical area, exclusive area here, all right? But now it's just not true. I mean, some gal can put a picture of herself in some thong or bikini or some outfit, and they're talking about her over here in Dubai within 15 minutes. Okay, so just worldwide presence, exposure is so different, and I think Ragnar, it skews all the ratings just to some level, okay? But everybody, the hurdles, the barriers for entrance on social media are zero. What do you got to have? Like an email and invent your own username, and now you're on here putting pictures of yourself everywhere. Okay, and whoever's interested can jump on here and reply back to you. So it really
the gal
does.
can Photoshop everything. She can filter everything, Photoshop everything. So she looks, she looks 3 points hotter than she is in reality. All the blemishes are gone, the stretch marks are gone, and so these thirsty guys are sitting on there, just lonely guys looking for somebody to talk to, and she's getting all this attention. Well, the guy comes home from work, got dirt under his nails, and he's just kind of tired. He's not Mr. Charisma. He's not on, and all day long she's been getting hit up by all these thirsty betas around the world. How are you going to go against that? To be honest with you, we have our brains haven't developed quickly enough to deal with that. That's only 15 years old, really.
Yeah.
Facebook was 04, so 16 years ago it got founded. So, I mean, 16 years is not quick enough for us to assimilate to that. You know, so that's a tough one. And I tell you what, my son's 24 and single, and he's a relationship guy, but he dates a lot of stuff, but he's like, man, all these gals are on here. They all got the girls he dates all have 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers on Instagram, these pictures. He's like, I'll date them, but I'm not invested. I don't trust them.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to.
He finds out if he goes out with these girls that they have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
And he'll find out 2 or 3 dates in, they have a boyfriend. They just been on the side with him.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you invest in that? They're pretty, they're gorgeous. But if you're a good-looking girl now and you're on Instagram, you got 3,000 guys following you. You post anything. You're having a down day at work, right? Maybe you and your boyfriend got in a spat, right? You put a bikini pic on Instagram, you got 3,000 thirsty males telling you how great you are instantly to pump up your dopamine. Well, if you're her boyfriend, how can you compete with that with a card and a flower or whatever? I mean, I'm sorry.
And go buy your Walmart flower.
You just can't compete with that. So it's real.
It's such an odd thing where we're at in this world too, because I think, the more we look at all this stuff and the more change, I mean, they're coming light speed. All this stuff changes so quickly. It's not, as we've talked before, it's not Leave It to Beaver world. Okay. It's not Leave It to Beaver. This is not, everybody's not there. They've moved on, and they're moving on quicker and quicker and quicker. This is how this goes. I think one of the things we want to talk about here is that, Abednego, did you have anything to add to that? I sounded like you had something there.
No, I just think that's a really good bringing up on the social media, because you think about it. I mean, attention is one of the things that women crave. They crave the attention, and man, if they're getting the attention from, even a normal person might have, 500-600 contacts, and if you've got 30, 40, 50 guys, constantly, oh, hey, how you doing? I haven't seen you for a long time, and showing all this interest, man, it makes things really tough, and it can really cloud up a relationship, and it can put you in a bad place. So the social media stuff has totally changed everything.
Well, one of the things that we say on this all the time, because there's fundamental differences in how men and women behave on all these things. Women, will give sex to get attention. Women will give sex to get attention. Men will give attention to get sex. Now, if this isn't more upside down, I don't know what could be. I think one of the things when we talk about leverage and how does this work, why do we talk about it? Because there's leverage index on this. There's a coefficient that you got to pay attention to. Okay, if we go back here, and I'm going to put a whole leverage chart up here, but it came up about, hey, what should we do then? What does a woman really bring to the table? It comes down to, on the leverage index, what can she provide that I can't get from somewhere else? And if you look at this stuff, okay, what can I get from her only? All right. Well, I can go cook my own food. We talked about that, Ragnar. I can do that. I can go get an increase in my money, so I don't need her money. All right. I can raise the kids if need be. On this chart right here, Abednego, on her side of whatever she's bringing to the table, right here. What do I need her for? And I know this sounds like a really ruthless thing to say. On all these things, right? You take everything off. There's only sex left.
Yeah.
That's all there is. Okay. So now, if you take sex off the table, what do we got left?
You just got a complicated friendship then. Very complicated friendship.
Yes.
Look, I want to add something on the guide side of this.
Yeah.
because I told you about these gals getting these thirsty betas hitting them all day long.
I love that term too.
And so here's how remember I said you want to create a situation where she knows she can't replace you.
Yeah.
Now, how do you do that when she's getting hit up 40, 50 times a day by guys, thirsty betas? I'll give you an example of what I did Friday night that kind of fits that mold. And this is not everybody's personality, but we were standing waiting to get into this nicer restaurant. It's called The Loft. It's all organic food on the northwest side of Indy. And we were standing there waiting, and At Last came on, the song that the Obamas danced to at the ball.
Inaugural.
And it came on. We're just standing there. But we've been taking swing lessons, and we're standing there, and people are eating dinner and stuff, this kind of thing. I just grab her, and we just start doing slow swing dancing to At Last, right in front of everybody, and I don't care. Now, every gal in that place looked up, and now this couple was leaving, and the guy came by, and Dawn said, "Oh, excuse me," and the lady goes, "Don't stop on our account," because the lady loved watching us dance. Every woman in there wished their guy would pick them up and dance like that, right? Now, if tomorrow the next day she gets hit on by 30 guys on Facebook, she knows darn well none of those guys are going to get up and dance with her in front of that restaurant, in front of all those strangers, and not care about it, and make her feel special, right?
Yeah.
So that's a small thing. It costs no money. It took a minute of my time, but that differentiated me about any other guy that's going to hit on her on Facebook tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's how, as a guy, you say, how can I compete with social media? Well, you got to grow yourself, so you got the self-esteem to do something like that. You got to bolt on the skill that you feel comfortable doing it like that, and you got to be indifferent to the temperature of the room. And you know that she's getting once she knows that's happening, she's getting you're getting pre-selection from those women in there, and those women in there are envious that she's not getting that they're not going to get that tonight with their old man. He's going to go home, kick him off the door, and flip on ESPN. So that's how she knows she's never going to replace you by doing those kinds of things. They're surprising, they're fascinating, they're interesting, and she's not going to get that from the next 100 guys that hit on her.
Yeah.
She knows it. She knows it. Now listen, how many of her girlfriends got the message within 24 hours that happened at the restaurant?
They all get it.
Johnny would never do that with me.
Yep.
How many times do you think she heard that?
Yep.
Now you got to bolt on a sack to be comfortable doing that in public.
Yeah.
But then now you can hit on her all you want. You do those kind of things. Don't put baby in a corner. I had those situations I've talked to you about before. Trying to put us on this table back here. We got the big mountain right here. So no. We're not putting baby in the corner. We're going to have this one. Those kind of things. Most guys are just going to take that. Okay. Over here. The dancing the other night, Friday night. That kind of stuff. It was 45 seconds. I spun her around. Real quick at last. Brought her in. The people were trying to walk by, and the hostess was there, and that took me 45 seconds, cost me no money, and made her night. And differentiated me from the crowd.
I think this is probably another one-off thing we need to, how to be fascinating. That's really all. This thing, what you're talking about here. Okay. On the fascinating side. Well, how do you compete with all the dopamine hits they're getting all day long on social media? Okay. So there's some things on here. This is probably worthy of another topic somewhere, although you jump in any time because, when it's flow state, you just jump in and go. I think that's more important.
Well, here's the deal. Whatever dopamine she got off social media is nothing like what she got from 50 women looking at her for that 1 minute.
Oh, sure.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
And her man taking charge, making her feel feminine, spinning her around in front of 50 other women that wished they were standing there.
Yeah.
And that their man won't do that.
Well, and it's neutralized. All her dopamine hits on social media is neutralized now instantly.
Yeah, instantly. Okay. Because whatever she's getting on social media is nothing like that.
No, it's the same old stuff on there. Okay.
Yes.
But you take her out and you spin her around a few times. Now she's the star of the thing in front of all these people.
I made her the bell. I made her the bell of the ball that night, and there was no ball. I created a ball.
Well, that's right. But it's all this side right here. When you go back down and look at this, it's just points to this fascinating. Who can do that? All right. Who could be a little bit, because you're not talking about quantum theory here. Okay. It's degrees of fascinating. All right. That's how we got to do on that. I think there's some things on this when we go back let's go back to this. I want to go into this a little bit on the leverage side. And if you got something else on here, Abednego, jump in on here. I think there's different things that we look at, okay? And we'll go back to this. I know we've put this on here, aloof, indifferent, loving, kind, okay, and fascinating. So but again, we'll bring it up again at different times. I think, when you look at how this thing works on this, I don't want to turn it into too much algebra here, but there's your core leverage, okay? And here's your fade items. There are certain things that you have, okay? Certain things that you have that are your core leverage items that are there. And there's certain things, there's other things that as you go along, they fade away, okay? Now, on the fade away side, what does that even mean? How does that work? What are we talking about here? There are certain things that you don't have right now that can come and go, okay? Money can come and go. These types of things can come and go. But certainly as you do gain status, as you do grow in these things, as you grow your money and resources, those things increase, okay? So all of these types of things, they're subject to change on the fade items is what I'm saying on this, okay? And so each of them have their own place to play in this, okay? And the reason it's important is because on the fade items, we can still do stuff about that. Maybe you just need to go get back in shape a little bit, tighten up, okay? There's certain things that you can do, honey. Core leverage items, okay? On your personality. That's your core leverage item. That's how that works on there, okay? There are things that work like that. I think, Abednego, go ahead and comment a little bit on some of the things that you've seen. You see people all the time that come in and how that works on them. Some of, you're right, what you said before was usually the guy has let things go as far as the A-B scale, but there's other things they've done to screw things up too. Go ahead.
Well, the biggest thing that honestly that I do see guys do is given all the leverage over to the sex issue. The whole leverage that she has over the whole relationship is sex, and it begins to control the relationship to the point that she can lead him around anywhere that she wants him to go, and he'll get frustrated to the point that he's ready to chuck it all in. She'll dribble a little bit to him, a little bit of sex, and then all of a sudden, he's back to where, okay, and he gives over all this leverage to her in that issue. And so, the one thing that we talked about one time that was kind of a great test was just taking sex off the table.
Yeah.
And you take all the leverage away. And it was amazing how that changed everything. With those fade items, yeah, all that stuff, the thing is, like the Bible says, beauty fades. It's fleeting. I've always said that you are at some point the best looking that you're ever going to be, ever, unless you go make a pretty healthy monetary investment and get some work done. There's a time where that's just it. You're the best that you're ever going to be, and it's going to fade from there. And so how do you take that and use that to the best of your ability to get the best spouse, to get the best job, to get the best whatever? There's a clock on so many different things, and you've got to be aware of that. I know some gals specifically that in the church, it's all about God's going to send you your soulmate. You just pray and you just sit there and you just wait, and eventually God will send you your soulmate. Well, I've known some young ladies who were just tremendous. We're talking 8, 9s, great gals, very attractive, high IQ, very, just what you would want to settle down with and have a long-term relationship with. But they were waiting for the one that God would send, and waiting for the one that God would send. And then, then they're 25 and God still hasn't sent them. And then they're 27 and God still hasn't sent them. And then they're hit 30s, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I got to get married. And because they notice I'm not as good looking as I was, things are changing. There's some things that are starting to fade. And so they end up settling for something that they wouldn't have settled for when they were 22, 23. And so these things that we're talking about here with the fade items and whatnot is those are important conversations to have.
I think they are. I think Abednego, just I hope everyone can see this on the screen. I've got it in two charts. I don't want to turn this into some boring algebra lecture, but here's what I think for point of emphasis on this. You have your core leverage items, okay? And these really don't go away, barring some kind of senility or whatever. Your money-making ability, quality family, education, social dominance, reputation, alpha seed. If we say, okay, I don't care who you are, what guy you are, you get 7 points max on that column, okay? On your fade items, you get half points each for these, okay? Because, surely everybody in here can understand that if you're 80, you're not a 9 or 10. You faded some items here away, okay? But if you say, I get max 7 on these items on the left, over here on core leverage, on the right on the fade items, I can get half point each here, and that might be some hypothetical 9 or 10, 8 up there somewhere, okay? But these fade items will go away. What are you left with your core level? Girl, now we can put this on the guy side too. You can look, put your columns up here on the girls. You can do it any way you want to do it. This was just one day we developed this over here, Ragnar, just because in class we were having some fun with how do we even get up to 10? Because we have people in our group who show up and they think they're an 8. They're nowhere near an 8.
What I would suggest, is to just your peer group, the guys your age in your area.
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're an 8 or above with the guys your age in your geographic area.
Yeah.
You don't need to go compete with some 25-year-old college stud.
Yep.
Maybe you compete with him when you were 30, but you can't now. The guy's, he's got no wrinkles. He's 25. Let's look at him. Let's look at him when he's 50 and see what happens.
Yeah.
But if you're 53, then from 50 to 55 in your geographic area, you need to be an 8 or above.
Yeah.
With that population, within that small population of 50 to 55 in your town, your geographic area, or when you're going out to dinner or whatever, you need to be an 8 to a 10 in that 8 or above in that 50-year-old to 55-year-old area in your town.
But Ragnar, you're still talking about top 20% of your social circle. Okay.
Well, yeah, relatively speaking, you're not competing with some IU quarterback that's just 21 years old. You're just not. So you're competing with, your peer group, 50 to 55. In that peer group, you need to be 8 or above in that peer group. And that's a good goal to have, and that's an achievable goal to have for a majority of men. Yeah.
Well, now a couple things on this. You can listen now on this. Women, if we just go back to the sexual market value chart, let's go back here just a second. Guys, you can move up in here, but not as quickly as the women. Okay. Ragnar, go ahead and break that down for us. How does that work on there? Because let's say, okay, guys want to move up and they want to increase their sexual market value. Girls can do this much quicker. Break that down for us on how that phenomenon works on that.
Well, my philosophy on that is a little bit different than the mainstream manosphere on that, but and I'll go into it. But for women, she can get a spray tan, get veneers, a boob job, hair job, be a little more edgy with her personality and a little more enthusiastic, a little more flirty, and she'll pop up 2 points.
Yeah.
If she loses a little bit of weight, stuff like that, go pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Now, the word on the street for men is, well, you got to build your value and your money making abilities and this and that. And so I I mean, I understand a certain amount of that. You got to have some protein there, but like I did, I told you Friday night where I took my gal and spun her around there for 45 seconds to a minute to At Last in front of all the women there. Now that took me no time. Now I had to have confidence to do that, and I had to take a chance to do that. But that took me no time to bolt that on. And my value in those women that I did not know jumped because I did that. Because it showed social dominance. It showed brave. I was brave. I showed confidence, right? There's nothing like confidence. And I had a dancing skill. I mean, whatever. So all that happened in a minute 40. So in 45 seconds, people think it takes a long time to raise your perceived. Now I'm not talking about real value. I'm talking about perceived value.
Sure.
Now there was real value there because I could dance. But if the perceived value, it took me 45 seconds to dramatically raise my perceived value to 50 strange women in that stranger women.
Yep.
45 seconds. So it doesn't take that long. I disagree with some of the common things in it. Well, you got to get so much in the bank. You got to lose weight, work on all that kind of stuff. You can change how long does it take you to go get a nice suit of clothes that's stylish and put them on? Yeah. How long does it take you to get a haircut, trim up your beard? How long? Get a decent suit of clothes on and then dance with your girl like that in public while you wait for a restaurant. How long does that take? Right? It can be done in one night. Yeah. So your perceived value can be increased almost instantly. Yeah. If you have the sack to do it. Right. So it takes longer, but that's so rare. That level of confidence to be able to sit there and spin your gal around in public like that in a restaurant is so rare. Yeah. It's so rare that your gal knows it. The women there know it. The guys that are there with those women know it. There may be one guy or two guys that go, oh, look at that goofy guy. And his woman's going to look at him like, what are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, a guy can raise his value. So I'm different than most of the population on this as far as what guys talk about this. I think a guy can raise his value very quickly by behavior. I think he can too. Yeah. And I think what we're taught out there, I really do. And those are things that at different times, I've changed my mind on that in different ways. What I do understand is, listen, it doesn't take a whole lot of changing to act bold in a bold manner. When we did this on a one-off lesson a few weeks ago, it's a couple months ago, we talked about take bold action. Remember, we put this thing together, okay? Bold action, that's all that is action. You don't have to have money in the bank account. You don't have to have a degree to go act bold. That's all that was Friday night was bold action. You don't have to do it, okay? You can go do this thing. Now, true, you have to have some things put together here to have some confidence to do this thing. But that doesn't mean there's some physical limitations on that materially. I mean, you can put this together however you want to put it together, okay? But it doesn't have to mean you have to go do all this stuff, okay? I do think, though, traditionally how we look at that, if you're a woman, you go get a tan. Listen, whatever that is, half an hour, you do that, you mow the lawn for a while, maybe you got a tan. Okay. Well, listen, if you go do a few of these things, because tan fat, I guess that's better than regular no tan fat, so that's better. Fix your hair, they all do this all the time. Fix your nails. This is something they're used to doing. I think what you're talking about, Ragnar, is something that's really foreign to a lot of guys. Even though it's available. But it's so foreign to them, they don't understand this thing, okay? And how many guys really can go dance? All of them can, but they won't. Wherever you go take your dance lessons, Ragnar, how many guys in there? 20 girls, how many guys you got there? 1, 2 guys? Not counting the instructors? Yeah. Me and maybe one other dude. Yeah, out of 20. There's like 40 women. There's like 40 women in there. And talking about a great way to set yourself up for pre-selection. That's right. You're in there with your girl, and there's 40 women there wishing they were there with a man. Yep. I mean, and your woman notices all those girls watching you guys dance all the time. There's mirrors everywhere. Yeah. And you walk out there, and she's made comments. She goes, I can tell those gals in there wish they were me. Sure. She says that. I mean, because they're there alone. They're lonely. They're there by themselves. Yep. No dance partner. And they're there with dance. These girls are dancing with each other on these partners dances because there's no guys there. Well, look, man. So my gal's sitting there watching all these gals wishing they had men there. Yeah. There's no dance partner. And then
no
again,
dance
my
partner?
gal knows you can't. Okay, he's hard to replace. Most guys won't come out here and take this lesson with me.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, so
They
I mean,
won't.
there's little things like that, you know, counter all that social media junk, and some guy flirts with her at the store or whatever. That all counters that, because she knows that guy ain't going to do that.
Yeah.
He's not.
You know,
You know?
when you go to the dance studio, the parking lot's open. They don't check for gender or race. Hey, everybody can go in, put down your money, and take a lesson. So they just choose not to do this. Okay, whatever.
Well, heck, you can even go on YouTube, man. I mean, you could even go on YouTube, you know, it'll
Sure.
take you a week to learn a
Yeah.
basic couple spin moves or swing moves on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't even have to spend any money. Just go on YouTube.
Yep.
Basic stuff. You know, to do what I did at that restaurant Friday night, you could spend 15 minutes on YouTube and do that.
Yeah. It's all there. Okay. There's a lot of these things that I think probably the more we talk about it, the more people know it, the more they understand all this. It gets it within their reach, within their grasp on this stuff. Okay.
Can you see how, and can the both of you see how quickly that'll differentiate a guy?
Oh, sure.
I mean, he doesn't have to add a dime to his bank account. He doesn't have to lose 1 pound. He doesn't have to do any of that. And he's differentiated in a minute. He's just got to take the chance.
It's there. Okay. We're listening. What women are looking for, you know, Abednego on this. What women are looking for? They're looking for this golden ratio. We're going to go back here again because they're looking for this golden ratio here. They're looking for this 2/3 side. Okay. And they never see that. When they see somebody who's willing to take them, either married or single, out to some dance lessons, I promise you, if you're single right now and you're listening to this, okay, and you think you got some sweetie on the line, and you're trying to figure out how I can differentiate, I don't know what the percentages are, Ragnar, on that. Abednego, you got ideas on it? All the other guys trying for this girl, how many of them took her to a dance studio? Right here, 0.
Very few, yeah.
Nobody. Okay, so there's ways to differentiate. I remember back in the day, I didn't go to a dance studio, okay? And I don't know if I'd been ice skating in my life ever, okay? Took my wife to an ice skating. We went down to Little Rock. We were down in Arkansas at the time. Took her to an ice skating rink, okay? Now, I'm sure I could have been a better ice skater and she could have, whatever. It was a memorable night that she never had before. Nobody ever took her ice skating, okay? And the point wasn't us trying to be some Olympic ice skater. That's not the deal. We were doing, now, when I remember back there, I remember looking all around that ice skating rink. I don't remember one other dude in there. I really don't. I remember everybody's 8th grade, or maybe they're 18, a bunch of girls. That's what I remember, okay?
Yeah.
So, and now, would I done some things differently about how I handled all that night in particular? You know, there's a few things I probably would have spent more time with her. We spent a lot of time together doing that, but I didn't know, a lot of time I was just worrying about trying to stay upright, I think, you know, and because even though I grew up in a northern part of the country, and we didn't ice skate where I grew up, there's a lot of ways to differentiate, okay, that girls are looking for. They're trying to find something. When we go back here again, and we look at, what are we looking for? What are these people all looking for? Right here. They're trying to find something different. They can get all the regular stuff. They get vanilla all day long at wherever. Okay.
So
I think,
in that list, I mean, I keep beating this one point because it costs no money to do it. Okay. So on that list, those four things. Okay.
Yeah.
Those 4 things on that list.
Yep.
I was indifferent to the perception of the people around me.
Yep.
I was indifferent to her response because I was going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I knew she would respond positively.
Yeah.
I showed loving and kindness because I was very gentle in those movements with her.
Yeah.
And I showed fascinating because most guys don't have the sack to do it, and I had a skill that I could show. So
yeah.
I did 3 out of 4 of those. I did 3 out of 4 of those in 45 seconds.
With no monetary outlay.
No monetary. I was waiting anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Nothing going on.
It increased my value, my perceived value in her, from her, and the women in the room, and some of the guys.
Yeah.
And the hostess. And 3 out of those 4 was done in 45 seconds with no money.
Let me
You don't have to have $1 million in the bank. You don't have to drop 50 pounds. You don't have to drop all this kind of stuff. You know, I mean, that you need to work on those things. But in the meantime, you can do these kinds of things and get instant results. Do you think I slept alone that night, by the way?
I think I know the answer to that already. Let me say this. And we haven't developed this before, but I think it's a really good time. So if we're going to do this on the cheap, okay? On the cheap, and I'm going to go here and the quick, because what guys want is Monday morning stuff. I need it right now, and I can't wait till I build up my bank account to some mythical number. I need it on the cheap, and I need it on the quick, okay? So let's go over some stuff right away. And again, we haven't developed this, but we can do this, okay? I'm going to put the first one up. Abednego, I want you to come up with some stuff. Ragnar, I want you to come up with some stuff. Listen, here's the easiest thing you can do. Because, again, this is class number 3. And this is about keep the bears away, all right? This is what this is. Keep the bears away, all right? Let me say there's some things we can do cheap and right now that will, at least in her mind, on a perceived side, right now you talked about perceive, it will on her side, on a perceived side, at least start to put you back over here toward alpha. I'm going to say this, okay? One of the things that you can do immediately, doesn't cost any money. How about just make a decision? Okay? Make a decision, man. Now, this shouldn't be a real complicated thing. This happens 4 or 5 times a day or more. We make more decisions about that, but how many times in your relationship, okay, what do you want for dinner? All you need to decide is pizza or burrito. This is not complicated.
I think for newer guys, that's going to be a little vague. So I'll break it down a little more specific.
Sure.
Plan a date. Plan a date.
Yep.
Plan a date. That costs no money to plan a date. It could be going down and walking to the park and taking a canoe ride or whatever. Plan a date. Whatever that date is, plan it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's under the decision-making umbrella. That's one. Be bold. You know, take uncomfortable but positive action. We all know what women like. It's not brain surgery here, right? They like their emotions spiked. They like attention. They like their emotions spiked. They like to be envied by other women. Again, how many of those got checked off Friday night?
All of them.
45 seconds.
Free. Uncomfortable. What'd you say? Positive. What'd you say?
A positive but uncomfortable action, you know, for both of you. I mean, you know, for 2 or 3 seconds, she was uncomfortable when I did that, especially when people were trying to get out the door. And I just kept going.
Sure.
Thanks,
sure.
Pierre.
Well,
and so
you can't care about all this. Okay. You have to take some action. I think, you know.
But the fact I was indifferent about those people's opinions around me is confidence. It shows I'll kill the bear.
That's right. Yep.
Because I don't care.
Yep. You don't care about it.
That's what that communicates to her hindbrain is I'll happily kill that bear because I'm in front of 75 people here, 100 people, whatever, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my 45 seconds and I'm going to make my woman feel special.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, that makes her feel safe, valued, protected, all that kind of stuff.
And when you're done, we're not putting baby in the corner. That's number one.
No.
You know, we're not. Abednego, you got any quick tips? Cheap tips we can do Monday morning stuff. Okay,
you know, we're talking about keeping the bears away, and so, you know, something as simple as doing a sweep of your home before you go to bed. And my wife sees me every night. I go to the back door, make sure it's locked. I go to the front door, make sure it's locked. You know, I do pretty much a security sweep of the downstairs before I go upstairs and go to bed. And she knows it's taken care of. She doesn't have to worry about it, you know. And that's something you can do that's very cheap. That doesn't cost you anything, you know. And again, it's something that you can do under a minute, and it does provide that security for her. Yeah, I really like that. I mean, I think one of the things, because when you talk about security,
they can't be secure in the bedroom if they think maybe the door's open or the window's going to be flying open. They can't do this. Okay?
Right.
So I really like that. And it's, again, it doesn't cost you anything to do that, right?
Right.
One of the things I put down is start passing your fit tests. There's a perceived increase right there. Okay. Now, again, that's a little bit vague. If you're new, start passing fit tests. Okay. If you're new on this, some people don't understand what all that means. Okay. And so your girl's going to stand up to you. We covered this. We covered this in class number 1 on passing fit tests. So you can go back and listen to that. I don't want to dig way into that at this time. I want to make sure we get some of this in. Any other things you can do really quickly, guys, to take care of some things that have worked for you over the years?
You know, for me, another one is, you know, keeping maintenance up on vehicles. You know, making sure the oil's changed, brakes aren't squeaking. That's been a huge one. You know, if the brakes squeak at least a little bit. But those are all those security things that you're taking care of. And you don't have to worry about if the oil light's on or the check engine light's on or whatever. And so maintaining all those things, to me, has been a huge thing.
Well, I'm trying to think, when did we do this, man? Friday. We were over Friday. We put in a whole new door. It took all day long to do this thing.
Yeah. Well, and we had to rebuild the whole frame around it and everything. But, you know, that's something that she absolutely loves it. And she knows that door is more secure than it's ever been. And, and it also added beauty to the home too. And so, you know, that all those things, man, are huge. Yeah.
You know, it didn't take that much. I mean, it was a day, but when you look at the whole scope of a year or how many years you've been living there, we just took one day, finally did this thing, right? Yeah. So you came over to our place. We put a bunch of sheetrock up last summer. So but it makes a big difference in how the home is perceived, all that stuff. Now, on the sexual attraction side, right, it all starts to add up. You're building equity too. Some of these, if we look, we can break these down, however you want to do. We can break all these down. Which ones are sexual attraction side, which ones are provider side, whatever. We're talking about things right now that you can do to improve things and build your own value on this.
You know, I think again for the something that happens quick. If you're looking at bedroom side,
yep.
Any way you can make your woman stand out in a special and positive way amongst other women.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's, you know, dropping her off on a rainy day at the door and everybody else standing with umbrellas. I mean, just when you're doing things, if a guy can just be mindful and not say anything to his woman about it, just do it. Yeah. Anything, you know, I keep talking about Friday night because that's the most recent time, but something where you do something where it puts her above other women can see it and she can see them see it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
that's going to do two things. Number one, it spikes her attention thing, which is cool. And she knows that happened because of you, something you did allow her to stand out amongst other women. And number two, it goes back to the thing where she can't replace you because most guys aren't going to take the time and effort to make her stand out in front of other women like that. They're not going to do it. So if you can just look at ways, mastermind ways in your own head, what can I do? Like, again, don't put baby in the corner when you're going to a restaurant and try to stick you in the back seat. No, we're going to put baby up here and make it funny and stuff. Yeah. That made her feel special in front of other women. You know, I mean, just little things like that where you can do things that other women can witness. Yeah. That's the key part. The other women can witness where she's special. Like you said, planning a date. You know, I want you in a black dress tonight at 6. We have a reservation for 2 at this restaurant. You know, if you don't want to tell her, sometimes they want no dress code, at least minimum dress code. So, you know, reservation, 6 o'clock, whatever. And then she's going to tell all her girlfriends that she's going to tell them on Facebook, oh my God, John took me to, you know, this restaurant and he had a reservation. I didn't know where we were going until he went there. I mean, you can get a lot of mileage out of that because no guy is doing that at all. Yeah. You don't even have to dance with her at the front area. I mean, just plan a darn date and have a reservation. Get on the table app and plan a reservation. Tell her to be ready at 6. She's going to tell all her girlfriends on Facebook the next day. None of the husbands are doing that. None of the other guys are doing that. And
they're all saying, "Oh, I wish my guy would do that."
100%.
I wish my
just
guy
those little
would do
things.
That. Yeah.
You know,
so the more, if you can make it where twice a week you make your woman stand above other women, they see it, she sees them see it twice a week. I guarantee you, your bedroom's going to thaw out very, very quickly.
you know,
very quickly.
This happened the other day. I mean, one of the things that doesn't cost anything, walk on the outside of the street. There's a security side there. Okay. Listen, nobody, I mean, I'm watching movies all the time, just like you guys are. Nobody walks on the side of the street. Okay. Every time we turn a corner, or, you know, if we're in a town square, you got to do a little jump step over here to get back on the outside. That's fine. But they notice it. And I am telling you, every girl everywhere notices this. Okay. You walk on the outside of the street. Okay. Now, this happened the other day. We went to the Irish Lion, Abednego. We've been there. Great place, right? I called ahead. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I called ahead, got some reservations. She didn't know when we got there. And we stepped in front of 3 couples, and we're sitting down here.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we come right in here, okay? All these other clowns are all backed up out here fighting over something. We went right in. Lady took care of us. We went to primo slot down in the den, down below, you know. And it was open. It was ready for us. And because of social distancing and all this whatever nonsense is going on, they had limited seating, okay? Every other booth is blocked out, you know, one of these deals. So we just go, and now this didn't cost anything. It cost a little bit of 2 minutes, 30 seconds of planning, but so what, okay? But it's I'm telling you, there's dividends on this. And, you know, Ragnar, you talk about thawing out your bedroom. That's what we're all talking about anyway. Because if the bedroom's dried up, you're exactly right what you said. If the bedroom dries up and there's no sexy time, now you just have a really complicated friendship. That's all you, and in fact,
if she knows that she cannot replace you,
yep,
it would take a long time, if at all, that she could ever replace you.
Yeah.
You will not have a dead bedroom.
Yeah.
When she thinks that you're just an average dude that can be replaced anytime, your bedroom's dead.
Yep.
But through your behavior and your activity, your charisma, your game, your fascination, all this kind of stuff, if she knows objectively and subjectively that she cannot replace you easily, you will not have a dead bedroom. She'll be terrified of that. She'll be wanting your seed every chance she can, because that's how she's wired by God.
Yep.
But when she thinks she can replace you with any Tom, Dick, and Harry down the road, there's no specialness to your seed in her mind. She doesn't want it. Here, it's indifferent. She's indifferent about it.
One of the things we've talked about,
if she thinks she can't replace you, I mean, she may be out there for years before she can find somebody like you. If she actually thinks that in her head, and she sees proof around it, and you're doing stuff like we talked about, like you guys talked about on that list,
yeah,
you're making yourself unique, and you're making her feel special in front of other women, and they see it, and she sees them see it.
Yeah.
Your bedroom is not going to be dead, I promise you. And that doesn't have to take 6 months.
Be irreplaceable. I kind of get sloppy sometimes at the end of my words, but this be irreplaceable. What is your replacement value? Man, let me tell you something, guys, because anybody who's been involved in any kind of fantasy league sports at all, I used to do a lot of baseball, you know, Abednego, we done baseball, football, whatever. And I was into it at different times more than others, but it's such a big thing, okay, about what, if you have the best starting shortstop in the league, what's your replacement value? It's terrible, because all the other good shortstops are taken up on other teams. You know, Ragnar, when you say be irreplaceable, okay, they know, because they've been with other guys, either dating or married or however this works. And they know nobody they ever been with, either been dancing, had reservations, walked on the side of the street, took care of the house, took care of the vehicles, did anything. Okay. All these things work. As we wrap this up, guys, you know, on class number 3, keep the bears away. We're going to go into class number 4 next time, as far as keep bread on the table, provider side. Okay. So there's some other things we want to get into on that. Anybody have any last minute thoughts, closing? Did we miss something? I'm sure we did, but anything you guys see that jumps off the page that we didn't hit today?
I would say, along with keep the bear away, this is something for whatever reason, I think it's just the betaization of society that I find a lot of men, even cops that I've worked with, shy away from. It's the ability to put physical violence on another man. you don't have to go around beat people up, but people need to know that that's there. And your woman needs to know that that's there. Now, you don't want a woman that's going to try to get you in a fight or anything, but you need, the people in here know that I don't golf, right? I've been doing martial arts about 40 years. And so started when I was in the Army, 18, so almost 40. And so not everybody's going to have that kind of passion, and I understand all that. But primally speaking, if you're trying to have a hindbrain attraction from your woman, she needs to know if you're going to put the bear away, you need to be able to put the bear away. I mean, when Archie's, Bendy goes sweeping the house, you're sweeping the house, but what happens if the guy kicks a window in while you're sweeping? I mean, you've got to have that skill set, gun, knife, how to use it, bare hands, whatever. That is the ultimate aphrodisiac. If she knows that you have the ability to import violence on a bad man.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why, but that is the thing. Next to losing weight, those are the two things guys shy away from more than anything.
I'll tell you why, Ragnar, is because it goes instantly, and it bypasses all their modern filters, and it goes instantly right to their lizard brain. This is a primal trigger. I mean, there's no reason, there's no need for us to explain this deal. It's like, I'm not trying to explain why some girl is hot and some girl's not. It's there, okay? I don't need to explain. So when they feel on a visceral level that you can protect them, let me say this, okay, without dragging this thing out too far. The number one way to show value, the number one way, is to be able to kill a guy and take his wife. Okay? Viscerally, she knows when you take another guy out, when you back another guy off, somebody else is going to take you out, and she's going to have to go live with him now. I mean, because we've all gone back through this Viking series that we've been watching, okay? And we remember at the beginning when Ragnar, no relation, okay, when he takes out the Earl, back in season 1, whatever. And I don't think, so Ragnar kills this dude. I don't think it was 5 seconds. He killed this dude, the guy's wife. Says, all hail Ragnar. You guys remember this, real visceral deal. She had to do this because she's now saying, my allegiance, not with my dead husband, I'm with Ragnar. Okay. So I'm just saying viscerally, all right, the most primal way to show value is to kill some dude and take his wife. Now, in our modern world, is this? No, but they're still having.
I had a situation happen last year, June, at REO Speedwagon concert downtown.
Yeah.
The first concert I've ever been with this gal, and in her previous relationship, this wasn't how the guy would have handled it.
Yeah.
But there was a guy who had been intoxicated, and I came back from a restroom, and she was there on the blanket, and this guy was coming up and being rude. Yeah. And I took care of it quickly. Yeah. And he showed me his belly very quickly.
Yeah.
And he moved on. And she, as soon as she chilled out, after about a minute, she looked at me and says, I know someone that's getting some tonight. Now, what was that? That was just primal. It was, that's what it was. She said instantly, my previous relationship would not have been able to do that.
Yep.
And so that contrast, and again, it took me 5 seconds to handle the situation. 5 seconds.
Yep. Well,
and then that was it. And I moved his hand, took care of business, and then he showed me his belly and left. That was it. But the rest of the night, she brought it up. She texted her girlfriends. She was blowing. I mean, the next day, she just kept going because it was a 5 second differentiation. She felt safe. She felt valued.
Yeah.
She felt protected. She felt there's no doubt the bear is going to get killed tonight if it shows up.
Yeah.
And that took me 5 seconds. Now, do I have 40 years of skill set to back that up? 36 years? Yes. And all that.
Yeah.
But it took 5 seconds to handle that. And then the rest of the night, she was crawling over me, and she kept talking. Clear the time we got home that night, she brought it up again.
Yeah. Well, no.
And she said, that's how my dad would have handled it. She said, that's how my dad would have handled it, but my ex wouldn't have handled it that way.
Yeah. Well, but you put her in a position where she's secure now. So now sexually she's available because she doesn't have to worry about all that stuff.
She knows how society is now. Most guys aren't going to take care of that,
Yep, they're not going to do this.
But
They're
that's
not gonna
what I'm saying. To go back to this primal thing, if you're a woman, you know, we had one of the members in the group that had a little situation last year in his place of work.
Yeah, yeah.
Now things could have been handled maybe a little differently, whatever. But
Yeah.
I guarantee his woman, when the story got back to her, she did not lose attraction because of how he handled that situation.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah, totally.
that word got around. That word got around. Listen, he's a heck of a nice guy, but don't put a hand on him.
Don't cross him. Okay.
Right. So
Don't
his value
cross
go up in her eyes or lower in her eye.
Well,
right?
he's taking care of the perimeter. He's sheepdog.
Right. And
Okay?
so you need, whether you do it or not, you need to be that nice. You know, a kind man is not. A good man is not just a weak man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man that keeps it under voluntary control.
Yeah.
That's from Jordan Peterson, and that
one
is spot on.
One of my favorites. Remember, we go back to John Wayne, the Quiet Man. Remember this deal?
Yep. Yep.
Well, he got her to thaw out. Okay. But not before he had to show some violence here. So, whoever hadn't seen that movie in a while, you need to. You need to go see it.
Classic.
No,
Red
it's
Pill
just, I mean, come on, John Wayne dragging Moreno O'Hara by the hair through the village. I mean, there's a lot of visceral stuff here. Abednego, anything you got to do before we sign off? Anything you got for us?
Well, I wanted to add one more thing. I think the physical side and protection on physical side is absolutely huge. You've got to be able to handle yourself. You got to be able to go into scary situations and know that her and I are coming out of this unscathed. And if need be, I can put some people down on the way. And she needs to understand that. I think when we're talking about walking street side, it's huge. I taught my son that when he could just first start walking, you know, and I remember he was really little. Why do you always walk on that side? And I told him that's his job as a man. And so he's 17 years old. If he goes out with his mom, guess what side he walks on?
Yeah.
You know, he's protecting her. I think that physical side, but I think there's a mental side too as part of taking care of the bears. Because mentally, we can outsmart the bear. We don't always have to go hand to hand with them. And so protecting on that mental side, and this will play into next week when we're talking about keeping bread on the table, because, you know, for most people, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. Some people probably have creditors who are calling. If you're having your wife handle all those all the time, that's not protecting her. The bears are coming after her for money.
Yeah.
And you need to protect her from that. And so don't even have her name on that stuff. Don't give her contact number. You give your contact number and you handle it. Even if it's a debt that she incurred, you take care of it as the man. Take that off her plate. And so, you know, I think that's another way to keep bears away and help the bedroom out a little bit. Abednego,
I'm going to say this real quickly, because we've had a lot of guys who took back their finances in their homes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm not saying the females can't handle it in many cases better than the men. The issue is that if it's taken up RAM, if it's taken up brain power emotionally, okay, they have less of that to deal with you in the bedroom. If they're worried about debt, and if they're worried about some bill collectors and worried about whatever's coming up in your life, all right, the more they have to do that, the more they have to spend burning up RAM on all these other issues, the less they're going to have energy for you, emotionally availability side or in the bedroom sexual side. I mean, either way, okay? So leadership in the home, take care of business, keep the bears away on this thing, on 7 golden rings, class number 3. Sign off items, top review items for you, Ragnar. Break that down for us in 30 seconds, your top couple items here.
Well, I mean, the key points I want to make is just kind of hit on is it doesn't take months to invoke massive change. It can be done, if it's done smartly, it can be leveraged and done pretty quickly on measurable things that she can have to show to her girlfriends and to herself that she's special, she's unique, and that you're unique. I think that's a big one. And I think the fact you can kill a bear comes in many forms. Like you said, it could be tax collectors, it could be bad guys coming in the house, it could be a drunk at a concert. I mean, they can come in different forms, but there needs to be an edge there a nice guy with an edge, and there needs to be an edge there that's palpable by the people around you and palpable by her. There's an edge there that that you will show if need be. And I think those two things, if you can make her feel special in front of other women and be bold doing it, and also have an edge that's palpable to her by her and others, I think you're going to do a lot to thaw out that bed.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do. Abednego, what do you got review side?
I think for my biggest one is just be a leader. Don't default leadership to her. It's not necessarily how God designed her. God in Genesis, God designed her to be your helpmate and designed you to be the leader. That's the job he gave to Adam. Hey, tend the garden and everything in it. And so, you take care of business, you be the leader in the home. That doesn't mean that you have to be a dictator. It doesn't mean you never get her opinion on things, but I think if you'll be a leader, make decisions, you're going to go a long way.
Yeah, I do. I really think it's a thing that's really important. What I would say on this, and we've talked about this before, you got to have an awareness about how this works. Okay, you got to have an awareness when you start slipping a little bit here. Get yourself back up where you need to be on certain items. Okay, that can be anything. That can be on the physical side. That could be on your growth side. Okay, and I think one of the things that helps as far as all this, because you can include your family, your spouse, your girlfriend, whatever, on your growth. Okay, and if you have leadership in those areas on the growth side, then you both get to benefit. You both get to grow on this side. We've seen a lot of our guys in our group include their spouses in many different ways. Some guys still want to have that mystery pulling the string. That's fine, but there always does need to be some of that reserved for you, that behind the curtain side. Okay, but the more, as far as the growth side, keep growing on that. That's what I'd say, awareness and growth, because all of these things don't mean anything if you don't have an awareness about it. None of them do. Okay. Guys, appreciate your time on this. We'll come back next week. We'll get class number 4, 7 golden rings here with the PMC series. Class number 4 will be keep bread on the table. So you guys have a great week, and we'll tackle it again next week. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.